Hi, and welcome back to Pittman's Pumpkin Patch, Pittman's Garden Patch. It is August the 14th, 2014, and I wanted to show you a basic pumpkin hammock. Now, I've seen one or two out there on YouTube for these huge, gigantic pumpkins. Okay, as you guys know in my videos, I have some trellises that I made, and I'm growing some pumpkins up the trellis. And last year I had a pumpkin or two that got too heavy for the vines and everything, and they fell off, or they brought the whole vine down and snapped and all that kind of stuff, and it caused the pumpkin to have to ripen premature. So this year, one of my projects that I had way back in the wintertime was I was going to attempt to make a pumpkin hammock. And here it is. I already made one, and I already have it attached, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. I have to go outside for that. But I was just here in my kitchen, and I was making a second pumpkin hammock because I have two right now that are growing on the trellis, and so it was time for me to make that second one to get it up there and attached before something happens. So let me give you a close-up. What I'm using is burlap material, okay, just regular old burlap material, and it's a 10 weight, which is standard. And what I did was to reinforce it and everything. At first I really just put holes in there using my finger. I poked a hole in it and I put the rope through. And then I got to thinking, and I even talked to my dad and showed it to him. He goes, well, you might have it might start to tear and rip and might come apart, with the weight of the pumpkin being in it. So you might have to use a grommet to reinforce it. So that's what I did. Here's a grommet and everything, and this is the clean side and this is the backing side. So what I did was I took the burlap material, I cut out a piece of it that I felt that I needed for my pumpkins, and I folded it over on the ends. And then I put the grommet through there, made a nice secure hole so that it grips real nice and tight. I did the same on that corner and those two corners over there. Okay. Now, if you want to learn how to install a grommet, there are a couple of YouTube videos on how to do it. That's how I did it. I've never did grommets before. They're actually really easy. Doesn't take long to do it at all. Simple. So I learned a little new skill. And then this rope right here, this is manila rope. Okay, sometimes called jute rope. All right, now this particular rope has a maximum load capacity of about 122 pounds. And I know that's more than probably what I need for most of the pumpkins I'm going to get. But I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be the rope that failed, that caused my pumpkin to crash. So once, you get your grommets installed, you just, what I did was, because after the first cut, the rope, it can be a pain in the butt to go through the grommet. So I took some duct tape, just wrapped it around real nice and tight, okay, just for the corner, sort of like a shoestring. You get that little plastic tip on your shoestring, it makes it go through your shoe holes a lot easier. So same thing here, went right through the grommet, okay, came up from the bottom, see, just put the rope through on the bottom, come up through the hole, and then I'm gonna, once I get a certain amount of rope, whatever desired length I want, I'm gonna snip it off the other end, duct tape on that end just like this one. I'll do that, and I'll feed it up through that grommet hole there, and I'll do the same for those two over there. Okay, and eventually what you're going to have is just and then I'll go and I'll tie the rope onto the wooden trellis and then secure it underneath the pumpkin. And let me go outside for a minute and show you. This is going to be real quick. Okay, so I'm going to go outside, show you what's going on, like I said, real quick. Alright, so bear with me, folks, bear with me. You know what I forgot to get? I forgot to get my sunglasses. My eyes are very sensitive to the light, seeing how I have a visual problem. I'm legally blind, of course. But I just wanted to show you that. Okay, let me take you out here real quick. And I've been harvesting some of my watermelons and everything. So there's not as many as there used to be. But I still got some of my honking big one right there. Look at the size of that one. Oops, dropped my shirt. See that big old Georgia rattlesnake in there? And this is some of my experimental plants of my zucchini and squash that I just decided to, what I get is what I get, you know. I just kind of trying some things out. And I do happen to have one straight neck squash growing right there. And I hand pollinated that the other day. That was just a little baby of a thing when I discovered it that morning, but it took off. Okay, let me go over here. Oh, there are my scissors. I was wondering what I did with those things. I'm always misplacing my things. Alright, so here's a little bit more of that. Okay, now, alright, let's see what's going on. Hopefully, now I have had a lot more damage go on to my pumpkin leaves as a result of all that oils and stuff that I've been using. So there are some products that will never be used again. The rid bugs, I think I mentioned it before. Okay, so here we go. Let's get on with that. I'll talk about all that stuff later. So here is my hammock right there. You see the burlap material right here, and inside of there is a pumpkin. Okay, there he is. And I have the material going all the way up there, and it's tied off right up there. And then it goes underneath, right up there, and then it attaches over to the trellis on the other side with the rope. Now, I did have to go in and trim out a little bit of the leaves and stalks and things that were in the way, you know. But let me go up inside here, and excuse the noise, it's going to be a little crunchy because of the burning of the leaves. Okay, so let's go up inside here. Hopefully there'll be no critters up in there, because sometimes they like to... Oh, I can see the things have shifted a little bit. All right. Ah, I see that it's beginning to ripen. I wondered about that last night. Oh, sorry, guys. A little bit standing up on a chair on this thing. Okay, let me pull this burlap back just a little bit. Okay. And as you can see, some of the yellowing and oranging there on the left-hand side of the pumpkin. So it's beginning to ripen already. Okay. And I always come out here on a daily basis and I check the stems and the fruit for eggs being laid on there, because that's what happened to some of my pumpkins last year. The squash vine borers came out there and laid eggs right in the stem of the pumpkins, and when they hatched, they drilled holes right into my stem and ate the pumpkin and just mushed it all up. And I was so mad after spending all that time getting it growing. Sounds like the city's coming back here to finally clean up this area. All right, so anyways, there's my pumpkin hammock. How you like that? I'm enjoying that. And you know, let me show you the other pumpkin that I got going on. That's going to have to get supported here. Here that is right there. There's the stem. And it's resting on that right there. So I'm going to have to be very careful when I go to slip the burlap in there. I have to slowly move that under there very carefully so as not to cause it to come off. And I thought I saw a bug up there, but I guess I didn't. Okay, so that seems to be still doing its thing. I've had to do a lot of pruning out of here because I've just had way too many things just go wrong. And it usually does, and I think it may be just par for the course. But I see, let's see, I had another pumpkin that I think, see, there was one right there. Yeah, I don't think that one took. I don't think that one took. This is a charisma pumpkin. The other two that you just saw, the ones in the hammock, are geez Louise, Howden pumpkins. Okay, and I only got 2 out of those 10 or 11 plants so far. I've only gotten 2. It's kind of depressing. But I don't think this one took. I don't think, and the reason I say that is because right up here on the same vine is this right here, another pumpkin. And those leaves have turned bright yellow. Okay, real bright yellow. And that tells me that this pumpkin is still, this flower and pumpkin are still maturing. Now, 99% of the time, had this one set and was going to grow, this one wouldn't have opened. And because the plant knows it can't usually handle 2 pumpkins at the same time, you know, especially when it's just going up the trellis. Now, had this been able to sprawl out on the ground, maybe it would have gotten 2. But because it's going up a trellis, it usually cuts down on the amount of nutrients that the plant can get. So that should open up tomorrow morning. And that more than likely, and if it does, that will surely be the sign for me that this one is not taking off. And I don't really see this one really getting much larger. In fact, I'm starting to see, yeah, I can feel a little bit of the ridging and valleys with my fingers, which tells me that that thing is not taken. I was really hoping to get some of these charismas to go, because I've gotten a lot of my charismas have not really developed. I mean, they've developed a lot of good leaves and things like that, but not so much on the male flowers. Now, see, I've sprayed some of these leaves out here with some other stuff, another oil-based product, the pyrethrin, which does have petroleum stuff in it, and they seem to be okay. Doesn't seem to be any major damage to it. But let me show you some of the other pumpkins that I do. And the rest of the pumpkins that you're going to see are all Racer Plus. Racer Plus have produced quite well. Okay, there he is. There you are. I was wondering where you were hiding. Look at him. Okay. Oops. You know what? I forgot another one. I'm going to have to back up after I show you this one. So there's one. And I'm going to have to find something to support it, to get it off that ground, or to get it away from those things, because I do not want it to be touching the ground, catching any diseases and things of that nature. And so let me go back over here. That was a Racer Plus. Now I got a pumpkin growing over here that I do not know what it is, because, oh, was that just flying by? One of those stupid squash vine borer moths, enemy of all. Okay, right there. All right, now this one, I don't know what it is, simply because when I planted it, I lost track of what it was somehow. And so that's, I don't know if that's a Racer Plus or if that's a Charisma. And if I'm more than likely going to say that that is a Racer Plus, most likely, because all my Racer Pluses, most of them have been producing, or at least doing a better setting fruit and developing a female flower more than the Charisma has. That plant over there that I showed you a few minutes ago, the one that compared the 2 flowers, that was definitely a Charisma. I had that one labeled properly, and that was the first one that ever blossomed. So, you know, that is what it is. But anyways, that one, this was the one that had 2 females on it that blossomed the same day. I don't think I told you about that, guys. This vine right here had that one, and one just maybe a foot away that blossomed on the same day. 2 female flowers that blossomed on the same day. I was like, that's incredible. I'd never seen that happen before. But sure enough. And I pollinated both of them, but only one took, which goes to my point, earlier point, that, you know, the plant knows how many it can handle, you know. Unlike humans, we just keep on producing babies whether we have the money to afford it or not. Plants, they don't do that. They know what they can handle and what they can't handle, and they only produce what they can handle. So now later on it might produce more once it figures this one's grown to its fullest and all it has to do is ripen. It might set it might try to get another fruit to set. But anyways, let me move on, and I'm going to come out later on and check some of my flowers to see you know, if they're going to be blooming tomorrow or not. Okay, so I already showed you the one down here, and let me come over and show you on the other side, excuse me, like I said, I have a lot of sunburn damage on these plants. This used to be so doggone healthy. All right, this is the one. This is down here, sorry. This is the one I get to wake up to every morning, right there, right outside my window. And I get to see this grow and develop every single day. You know, again, it's a Racer Plus. And look, there's his buddy right back over there. So he's maybe 3 or 4 days or so, 5 days maybe, behind this one. This one seems to be more well developed. You know, doing pretty good. Okay. So I have 3 in this patch. I got a lot of plants, but only 3. Like I said, I've done some of these things have just not panned out for me because of the oils that have done some. Squash bugs have come in, squash vine borers. I've lost some leaves to squash vine borers, but I haven't lost a whole plant. And part of it is when I discover a leaf that's gone bad, I pull it off and I look to see if there's any of that frass. And if there's a hole that shows that they came in, then I'm going to start injecting the BT and the other spinosad stuff into the plants. And I'm going to start to, I'm just scanning through here, and I'm going to start taking care of that, you know, and be proactive on it. Because they normally haven't been attacking my stems for some reason, knock on wood, thank goodness they haven't, because that's a bear to find them and do anything with them there. But you can see some of the sun damage, sunburn damage, and you can see that leaf right there. Just some of these leaves over here drooping. There might be a borer in there, not sure. Could very well be. Sun was intense, but only about 86 degrees today for a high. You know, so, but there's still some are growing up, the trellis and everything. I have to work on them every day, but doing pretty good. So let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pumpkins out of all my plants. I only got 6 growing right now. And like I said, I don't think that other one's set. And I think I'll have another opportunity for it tomorrow morning. There's my Japanese beetle trap. Doggone things are been eating up all my blackberry leaves and a little bit of the blueberry, but most of my blackberry, they tore up my Egyptian spinach big time. So anyways, that's what's going on here, and things are still kind of heating up, but things are still sort of slowing down a little bit here and there, and be working on the fall garden not too long from now. And I'm already working on ideas for next year. Let me back off into the shade where it's a little cooler. I found a website, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, that has these grow nets specifically for gardens. And supposedly the hole size or the square size of each little hole on the netting is small enough so that, you know, borers and the moss and stuff will be able to stay out, and they can make it in all different kinds of size. Now it's pretty darn pricey, you know, but they come in a lot of widths, you know, like 4 meters and 6 meters and 12-meter widths, you know. So that's 36 feet wide. That's huge. And I think they even make ones that are a little bit bigger. I'm not sure. But they come in all different kinds of lengths, and they'll sell it by the yard too. So here's my next thing that I'm going to do next year that I hopefully will save me some time, save me some work that I have to do in there dealing with these nasty, stupid bugs. And that's this. I think starting in, I don't know, maybe after Christmas is done, I'm going to start buying a little at a time. I'm going to buy for one bed. I'm going to buy one of the nets or whatever, and I'm going to size up my bed. And then I'm going to buy the appropriate net for that one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, instead of making a hoop house, you know, I'm going to make it a square frame. You see how I have back there my big trellis that goes up into the sky? Not this one that's closest to us, but the one further back. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Not this little puny one here on the left, this makeshift one, but that one right back there where I've grown my cucumbers and some of the pumpkins up there. You see how it's all like a big rectangular frame, Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, but on a smaller scale on each of my beds. I'm going to put the PVC pipes down inside there and brace it and lock it into the 2x2s or 2x4s that are in there on the corners. And then I'm going to run PVC pipe down and just basically reconstruct that, but do it on a lower scale, maybe 4 feet off the ground or 5 feet. Okay, so just enough to keep pumpkin plants in, because the tallest thing that I grow, that I will be growing in there in some of these beds, are pumpkins. Okay, and so I need to make sure that I have probably 4 to 5 feet above the top of the bed. So the pole will go down a few feet, in a couple of foot or so down in the bed, but then you're going to have 4 to 5 feet above. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to drape that material over it to get back in the shade here where it's a little cooler. Woo, there we go, that's better. And that way I'll be able to do that. Now I don't know how many other beds I'm going to be able to do that for, because eventually, if I'm doing tomatoes, my tomato and pepper, I'm not going to do it for every single bed, because my tomatoes and peppers will need to be trellised, particularly the tomatoes, unless I decide to go for some of the what am I thinking about? Determinate, which I'm going to go for. I might go for some of the determinate tomatoes that produce 14 and 16 ounce tomatoes, which is dang good slice and size for a good sandwich or hamburger, So I might do that. That way I will be able to put a trellis, build that trellis system, not trellis, excuse me, that netting material and all the PVC pipes over every single one of the beds to protect them. And so that's something that's in the works. And that should save me from having to use any of these oil-based products that have scorched so much of my plants this year. Even though I took every precaution, I've sprayed them at night so that they had overnight to dry, and they still cooked my plants. And I also took the precaution of even trying a half strength, and it still cooked the plants, even at half strength. And I'm talking about the Ridbugs product. You go Google that, Ridbugs, R-I-D-B-U-G-S, 2 words. And I've only found out at a couple places. Let me tell you, that stuff cooks your plants. It claims that it will keep eggs from hatching, like squash bug eggs and squash vine borer eggs. And yes, it does do that. It absolutely does. I've checked, I've tried it out. I've found some squash bug eggs and some squash vine borer eggs, and I put them in a little plastic Tupperware container and hit it with some of that stuff, and then left it for about 2 weeks, and none of them ever hatched. Okay, so I know that stuff does keep it from hatching the eggs. However, you're going to cook your plants if it hits the leaves. So here's a thought that you could still possibly use it for. If you want to just spray around the stems, the bottom, the base of the plant, and not hit the leaves, then you should be okay. Now that'll stop most of your squash vine borer eggs, because most of them will either be at the base of the plant or along the stalk. Now sometimes, but there's still a problem with that, because you got sometimes you'll see the eggs near the very top of the stalk right by the leaves, so you can't really spray there. Otherwise, you nail the leaves, you start to cook it. So if you're going to only spray at the base of the plant, use the Ridbug products, as long as it's not going to splash up on any of the leaves and everything. Other than that, don't use it, because most of the squash bug eggs are right on the bottom of the leaves, and you can't spray the Ridbugs product to stop their eggs from hatching because you cooked the leaf. So use Ridbugs only to spray the base of your plants, and don't have any of it splash up on your leaves. You will cook it for sure. Next week or so, I'm going to be trying garlic oil, and I'm going to be trying that. Now, I did use that pyrethrin, which does have some oil products in it, a little bit. It doesn't kill squash bugs. I found a squash bug. brought them over to the trampoline, experimented on them, squirted them right down with fresh pyrethrin, didn't phase them. Got my soapy water, sprayed them, killed them within 10 seconds or so. So pyrethrin does not work on squash bugs. Even though squash bugs fly, it didn't bother them. Didn't bother them. Now I used it on the cucumber beetle, and that seemed to work, but I had to give them a good dousing. I found a cucumber beetle out the other day, and I got some cucumber beetle lures coming in the mail here soon, and I'm going to attach them to some yellow sticky card traps and set those out, because I have seen striped and spotted versions of the cucumber beetles, and so I got to get on them because they carry bacteria wilt. And so, you know, so many things going on, so many things I got to get done. And hey, it looks like the city's getting ready to gonna come through here and clean out all that tall grass back there by the big stone wall. And then hopefully they're gonna, because on the other side there, of course, they're building a new road, and they should be done with it pretty soon. And then they're gonna turn an extra maybe 3 or 4 feet of the property over to all the homeowners and everything. So we'll gain about 3 or 4 feet. I don't know, maybe I'll add some more beds back there. I don't know, probably not. Mainly because you can't grow anything back there during the winter time or fall, because that 10-foot wall back there, that's the south direction, by the way, the wall. So to the left is east, to the right is west, south is behind the wall, and north is behind me. All right, so that wall, the angling of the sun in late fall to winter, you cannot get sunlight, direct sunlight, in half of the yard. So I know where that is in my yard, because I watched it over the last year, and I watched where it is and how far that line of shade and darkness, shade and light, excuse me, is in my yard, and where it's at. And I know where I can put my fall and winter crops at, and I know where I can't. So maybe it would work for spring and summertime things, that's for sure. If you put some beds back there, you can get it to work for spring and summertime, but it won't work for fall and winter time, especially winter. Just simply because of, yeah. Now, if you could put some things back there that totally love shade, and that's great, but other than that, forget about it. All right, I have yapped my big mouth long enough. So, you guys have a great one, and I got to be starting back to school here on the 25th of August, and then the kids start back in my area on September 2nd or 3rd, whichever the day is, the day after Labor Day. If that's the 2nd, then that's when we start. If it's the 3rd, that's when we start. All right, bye for now. Pittman's Pumpkin Patch, Pittman's Garden Patch. Thank you for subscribing, and if you have any questions or comments, please post them. Bye.